rule breakers, you misfits and troublemakers, all you free spirits and pioneers, all you visionaries and nonconformists. Everything the establishment has told you is wrong with you is actually what's right with you. You see things others don't. You are hardwired to change the world.
There. All right. Let's start off with, what's your name?
Raymond Szyamanski.
Szyamanski. And what's the name of your book?
It's called 50 Shades of Grays, as in G-R-E-Y-S.
That kind of gray.
That kind of grays, yes.
Okay, tell us a little bit about what brought the book about and how this came about.
I was a senior scientist engineering type at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. My career stretched from January of 1973 to September of 2011. And my very first week at Wright-Patterson, one of my mentors asked me, "Have you heard about our aliens?" And I said, "We have aliens?" And he said, "Yes, in the tunnels." And I said, "We have tunnels?" And I was just this young co-op student, fresh off the hay wagon. And he said, "Yeah, we have aliens. They recovered aliens, brought them here to Wright-Patterson, brought the ship here, and everybody knows about it." And that's kind of what started my interest in the whole extraterrestrial thing.
Was he telling you this as a matter of fact and like it was no big secret?
I think he was doing it because Wright-Patterson was steeped in that mythology. This was 1973, a number of years had gone by, and everyone who came on base kind of got that indoctrination, almost like a fraternity hazing. "Hey, have you heard about our aliens?"
Right.
And then it was, "Okay, enough of that, get back to work."
So what's the book about?
The book is about my journey through the extraterrestrial world. I visit iconic UFO sites, famous sites. I try to find witnesses that have not been interviewed before. I try to find some evidence that may not have been revealed before. And then I just bring it to the light of day. So it includes a trip to Exeter, New Hampshire, where in 1965 Norman Muscarello encountered a UFO in the presence of 2 police officers. It became a famous case, and it was recorded in a book by John Fuller called The Incident at Exeter.
So what would be your most interesting incident in the book?
Well, the most interesting incident is the chapter on Wright-Patterson. I visit Exeter, New Hampshire, Rendlesham Forest, 1980 sighting. I spent a day with Travis Walton, and we went to his abduction site, and we did a photo shoot for the movie Travis. And I turned that day's adventures, which it was very, very interesting, I turned that into another chapter in the book. But I would say the money shot is the Wright-Patterson chapter. And the reason is I spent 4 decades there, knew a lot of people, talked about this subject a lot amongst my peers. And I think the photographs and the information I put in the book may start a few new conspiracy theories.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know what? People are looking for facts, and they're hard to come by in this realm, But when you get so many conspiracies lining up and looking the same, eventually you have to, I put it this way, I've never met a person that's been a hardcore skeptic that's looked at the evidence and stayed skeptical. Skeptics have never really looked at the evidence. And this blows my mind sometimes when I hear them talk. "Oh, there's no such thing." Well, have you ever watched or read or, no, I don't have to. It's a belief. They just don't believe. And anything that would disrupt that belief, like your book maybe, is hard for them to digest. But if we keep bombarding them, it eventually breaks people down. And if we get enough people to open up to this, they'll start talking about it.
I think it's important to note that I tried to make the book and information accessible. I have a lot of self-deprecating humor in there. There not only are my adventures, but there are my misadventures. And I did have some unusual experiences along the way, and I try to encapsulate that so that it's more digestible than this hardcore, "Oh, it was a saucer, it was an alien." It's like, no, the information is out there. you can be a housewife, and I don't mean to be derogatory there, and you can be a researcher, a great researcher. You don't have to have a PhD, you don't have to have a master's. You just got to have an interest in the topic. And the information is out there, and you too can find things that are valuable to the UFO community to make this disclosure thing happen.
Right.
And so I wrote the book from that perspective, from an everyday Joe kind of perspective that says, hey, I'm not a professional investigator. I just have an interest, and I made some connections, and I made this book happen. And I bring that information to light. And you will find things in there, I guarantee you, you will not find anywhere else.
Yeah, it's strange too, because a young girl asked me a few months ago, what do you find really interesting about the world? And I said, God, there's so much, you know. But I said, you know what? I think the most interesting thing I can think of is the fact that there's people walking around that don't think it's interesting at all. How did you do that? I mean, this is the most important question to humanity ever, and there's people that just simply aren't interested. You know, how does that happen? I don't understand it. It's like when you wake up a little bit too much, you can't go back. And this information wakes you up to the fact that we live in a very, very mysterious realm.
I think the reason is the people are too busy. They're trying to stay social. They're always hooked up to their phones. They don't talk anymore. They want to talk to their parents and all their friends. So they're totally consumed with that. They get the love through the phone. How many friends do I have on Facebook? And, you know, they're trying to pay the bills and get to work and do everything that life does to consume you. So I can see why most people don't take an interest. And if you look at the UFO community at large, you just take a snapshot of the people in the audience. They're all 50 pluses. And most of these people are in the tail ends of their careers, their families are gone,
Right.
They have an empty nest, and so they can pay attention to this. And I don't think you're going to see too many young people here. I think that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Society's busy.
So what would be your final thoughts on this, if you wanted to tell somebody about your book? And
I think my final thoughts are that I take you inside Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I peel back the mythology. And I try to defend the Air Force and the government simply because they are unjustly accused of doing a lot of bad things. Well, the fact of the matter is they do a lot of good things. And it's only the people who are trying to sell books and make it very dramatic. The Air Force is bad and the government's bad. And I think my book says, let's look at it from a more practical perspective. But I make it interesting and exciting. And I don't tell the Air Force side, but I make them look more human than the normal conspiracy researcher does in their books and their movies and their lectures.
Yeah.
And I think that's a twist that you won't find in too many books.
yeah, it's, I think a lot of them are as much in the dark as we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So again, the name of your book and your name?
I'm Raymond Szyamanski, and the book is 50 Shades of Grays. And if you type in 50 Shades and my last name, SZYMANSKI, it'll pop right to the top of the Google list.
All right, and pretty soon you'll be able to see my review on Amazon. Thank you
Awesome.
very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It was a real pleasure.
Absolutely.